Hi, everybody. Welcome to Let's Clear the Air podcast, brought to you by the CCAJ, and I'm your host, Faraz Rizvi. Let's Clear the Air is a virtual newsroom and podcast that discusses cultural and social influences here in the IE. In an era of misinformation, we're a platform that gives fact-based refreshers on the basics of mobilizing your community, as well as sidewalk and expert-level perspectives on various topics and issues in your neighborhood. In the spirit of Black History Month, we will be discussing issues that impact the Black community here in the IE, as well as the experiences of our organizers. Today, we'll be joined by Marla Matime and Gabrielle Thetford, followed by a roundtable discussion. Thanks for joining us. Today, joining us will be Marla Matime, our board member and organizer here in the Inland Valley region. Marla, if you want to introduce yourself to the community.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Faraz, for having me on the podcast. I'm very excited to be here, and I am just so proud of the work that CCAJ is doing in the community in the inland region. I serve as the Chief Operating Officer for Voice Media Ventures, that is the overarching organization for Black Voice News, a legacy newspaper here in the IE that was founded at UCR in 1972. So we're approaching 50 years in business. I also serve on the board for Sojourner Truth Fund as the secretary, and I serve as a trainer for the Douglas Washington Leadership Program that Voice Media Ventures and UCR Center for Social Innovation started together to help people who are interested in board service learn about board service, and then those who are already in a board, how they can improve their skills and learn new ways of being on a governing board. So my drive and interest in the environmental justice arena of the Inland Empire, I have asthma, just to put that out there. So a lot of the issues that our communities face, I am impacted as well. So learning about environmental justice was important for me when opportunity came around. So I'm very green in this space. Just put this out there, but I really have a passion for bringing awareness and education to our communities about what is happening in the region.
Right, and thank you. And this movement is beginning to take up more space in the public discourse and is really a growing movement. And we can see that especially in the way the Biden administration has been centering environmental justice lately in a lot of their movements and a lot of the administration choices.
Mhm.
And I wanted to ask, so, environmental racism is a growing subject in our discourse. And it's something that a lot of our viewers may not necessarily be aware of or what the dynamics of it are. And so, would you care to explain how environmental racism actually impacts our IE community?
Absolutely. So, basically, when new freeways or roads come up, they are pretty much built close to, if not on top of, lower income, impoverished areas, right? And who lives in those areas? Predominantly people of color, Black and brown people. Um, the impacts that happen to those communities, they're already at a disadvantage, financially. But when it comes to health disparities, they're at a far greater disparity. So environmental racism, drives, in my opinion, it drives capitalism. It continues to fuel that consumer need of gaining more material things that has a very significant environmental impact on our planet.
Right, that's very true, and it really puts some context on some of the larger environmental justice problems here in the Inland Empire with warehousing,
Yeah.
where we're seeing so many developers come in and just uproot communities for the sake of their developments and putting them next to sensitive receptors like schools and homes. without consideration for the impact this would have on the health of those people. And I know for a fact that there's no warehouses in Beverly Hills,
Hmm.
and there's a reason, and that reason is totally tied up with like class and race. So that definitely helps kind of formulate what this is. And so, you've been involved in the Inland Empire, serving as the board for a newspaper here that's been here for 50 years.
Hmm.
Can you tell us something about the environmental justice or social justice issues that you're focusing on right now?
Yeah, so our publication has covered stories regarding the impacts of the warehouses that are coming up. We have done a lot of work in the conservation realm. So that is where I was more familiar with in terms of the environment and, saving our planet basically until I came into the knowledge of CCAJ and slowly learning more about environmental justice for Black and Brown communities. We have a responsibility to preserve and conserve these natural spaces, these outdoor spaces. So when you're talking about environmental justice, it encompasses that because if we continue to build warehouses and build freeways and build these subdivisions of just thousands of homes, we're impeding on those sacred and delicate lands. So for me, living in the Inland Empire, I've been here for almost 12 years. And out of the 12 years, I've lived in Moreno Valley. And I can tell you that just down the street from me, there was this plot of land. It was a lot of space open, but it had a fence around it. And one day they just started building over there. And it's like, when was this approved? You know what I mean? And then before you knew it, it was like, okay, is it a shopping center that's going to come in, or is it an apartment building that's going to come in because people are displaced right now? No, it was a warehouse right across the street from a subdivision of houses and a shopping center tangent to it, or yeah, tangent to it. And so when you look at the landscape of where they're putting these warehouses, you're like, that doesn't even make sense to have a warehouse right across the street from these homes that had a beautiful view of mountains in front of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
completely.
I kind of went off on a tangent
No, but
there.
that's exactly it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly the issues that we're talking about. Even now,
Mhm.
earlier this week, we had an action as CCAJ against the business park specific plan that was, or the Bloomington Business Park specific plan,
Mhm.
which is like a warehouse that they're building, and they're building it like right over a high school and over like 200 homes, and they're gonna displace these people who live there. Majority of them Black and
Mhm.
brown communities, a number of them renters, so they don't really have a choice as to
Right.
whether the property gets sold or not. And it's in an area which is like right next to it. There's an elementary school and a middle school. So the
Mhm.
elementary school and middle school will still be right next to the warehouse, but they're building it over the high school, and it's like, where are these? Where are the people who go to high school? Where are they going to go? And the only way you can really even make sense of it is that they're just thinking that they're planning that this whole area is just going to be warehousing, or that
Right.
people don't have aspirations here outside of being a warehouse worker.
Right.
And this is like, it's the same thing in Moreno Valley, it's the same thing in Colton, it's the same thing in Fontana. We're seeing just a slew of warehouses, and it really does show you the intersections of like environmentalism, racism, social justice, class
Mhm.
issues, housing, and,
Mhm.
and, and a lot of those issues. And it's atrocious what's going on.
Absolutely. And I like to add that the argument of, well, these warehouses that are coming up are bringing jobs, but they're temporary. The builders who are building it, the construction workers that come in, that's a temporary job. Once the project is finished, they're done. they're moving on to the next project, maybe, or they could be out of work. Then you look at who's running the operations within the warehouses. Pretty soon, everything is going to be automated. And there's only going to be a select few that has the knowledge, the experience, and the wherewithal to operate those automated systems. So where's those jobs going to be? Um, and it's a delicate balance because we are all consumers, right? So how do you find the balance between, okay, this is something that we may need, but this is something that we really can live without?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, completely. And this is the challenge, especially because one of the things that we're seeing is, since the pandemic started, people are
Mhm,
home, people are shopping online, and so a lot of spending is migrating from in person to e-commerce, and
mhm,
this has created like such a boom in warehousing that we're seeing the ports that unload at Long Beach and LA. In the history, it's like I think like 125-year history that they have records that this is the highest profits they've had.
wow.
And there's so much money. Like one fact that blew my mind was that there is so much so many goods moving through the IE that it created a shortage of warehousing space that actually bumped up the prices of rent all across the IE. So across the whole United States, the Inland Empire had the highest rate of a rent increase during the
Mm,
pandemic, just because of the you know the uh, distribution center of the logistics supply chain. And
mhm,
it's crazy because it's one of the things that people don't really it's hard to visualize. It's hard to look out your window and see that kind of racism, but
mhm.
on an everyday basis, it's there. And yeah, thank you for kind of clarifying and discussing these issues. I wanted to pivot a little bit because I wanted to speak a little bit about we're recently coming off a huge national episode. One that's pretty traumatic. We witnessed a coup attempt, a white supremacist insurrection that was sparked by Donald Trump's lies and bigotries. And I wanted to kind of ask, where were you when it happened, and what was your response as a community leader?
So I was at home recovering from COVID. Um, and as a community leader and member in my, I could be a leader, but I feel that I'm just as equal as anyone else because we're all in this together. I was at home when all of that stuff was taking place and I was watching it on the news. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. If that was any other group of people, black, brown, folks would have been shot and killed on sight. Folks would have been beaten. But yet those individuals were basically like welcomed in with okay, you're welcome to come in here and wreak havoc on something that is what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not gonna say sacred. I would say it's very disrespectful what they did.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And no black or brown person would have been able to walk out of there in one piece.
Mhm. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining this episode of Let's Clear the Air podcast. We're joined by our fellow staff member, Gabby Thetford. Gabby, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gabrielle Thetford. I am CCAJ's office assistant. I'm a part of the admin team. So nice to meet you all.
And on top of administrative, you're also definitely an organizer and do a lot
A,
of help with our.
a newly community organizer, yes. um, actually, I had my first experience as a community organizer in the Bloomington meeting that we had in the in front of the board of supervisors, right? They're trying to displace 200 homes and, taking those families out of that area to put a warehouse there. Unfortunately, they wouldn't look me in my face. They, the board of supervisors, they didn't want to have eye contact. I felt like most like I was speaking to myself, but they heard me, right? That's all that matters. I said something, and my fellow community members, they get to see that I'm standing up for them. So that was a really, really good feeling. I felt as though like I was doing something very well, especially because a month before I found out that my son developed asthma. So I'm from Jamaica. I have no asthma. As far as I can tell, I don't have asthma in my family. My husband doesn't have asthma in his family, and we both don't have asthma. So for my son to develop asthma, and I know the reason why, right? From working here at CCAJ, I've learned a lot. So I know the reason why. So it's not a good feeling for me to know that my son is only 2 years old and he has a hard time breathing, right? So I spoke up for both my child, for everybody else's child, and for everybody else's, right? For this planet Earth, because obviously, like, we're not getting that. We're killing each other. We're killing ourselves because that's what's actually happening. We're dying, right? For a warehouse.
And so it seems like it meant a lot to you to speak up at this supervisor county meeting, just to let them know that, this warehousing and air quality is unacceptable.
Yeah, and I told them that. I told them, it's unacceptable. It's not okay. It's affecting actual lives. You can't see it as like a number or, this is a project. And, their excuse is, we're going to provide jobs. But your employees are going to go to that job every day, inhaling all of that, right? Then there's traffic to go to work because of all these trucks. There's the effects is just worse, right? The effects are worse. Just leave those 200 homes there and think about something else, a park for kids.
Green spaces.
There's a whole bunch of other things that can be built other than a warehouse, right?
Yep.
So it meant a lot to me, and like I said, it hit close to home because I have a 2-year-old, that can't even talk to say, "Mom, I can't breathe," that is affected because of our environment. Yeah. So that affected me a lot.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, and that's powerful. And there are so many community members who have that same story, who have experienced it, whose children have experienced the adverse effects of the worst air quality in the country that's here in the IE. And having, people like you speak up and, letting leaders know that this is unacceptable is a huge step forward for us. And it continues to be, part of an essential part of the work.
Right. And we are their bosses, right? They're elected to serve the community. And so it's as if they know there's a problem. And I felt as if we are begging them to do the right thing, right? But we shouldn't be begging them to do the right thing because they know what the right thing is. And they're elected, these officials are elected to serve the community, right? And they're not serving the community. The air quality is getting worse and worse, right? And it's not even just about the air quality. It's just like the lives of these people it's just getting worse. In the midst of COVID, not only people have to try to survive through COVID, like they're getting kicked out of their homes, right?
Yep.
And they're saying, "Oh, well, we'll give you money." Well, after taxes, you won't have anything really. There are people that have their homes paid off. Now they have to go into another mortgage or house payment, right? And their kids have to go to new schools. It's already very tough. It's a hectic situation. And I just wish maybe that can go on pause. When you drive on the freeway or wherever you see these warehouses or you see these factories and you see the smog going up, I just think to myself, I wish I could turn it off. Just turn it off. And I think about the people that take those routes every day. They see it. And they get so accustomed to it that they just ignore it after a while. But that's actually what you're breathing in. And you don't know some of those chemicals, right? They're not sitting you down and say, okay, we're going to build a factory, and these are all the chemicals that you're going to be inhaling for the next 20, 30 years that you're going to be living here. It just happens that way. So I'm very happy for CCAJ. I'm happy to work here because I'm learning so much, right? That they're not teaching you in schools really, or nobody's taking the time to teach you, right? They just tell you just work and go about your business and don't ask any questions. So I'm happy to have learned all this.
We're happy to, that you're in this fight with us, and, you're experiencing, your ability to stand up and fight for our community.
Thank you so much, Ross.
Cool. Thank you for joining us today. And we're just talking about some environmental justice issues and some of the things that we've been going on. I wanted to start with asking, what are some of the big organizing issues that we're focusing on for 2021? And we'll go ahead and start with Gabby.
So I believe one of the issues we're facing is with the Black Lives Matter movement. We're starting to organize, especially in 2020 when we were organizing, to discuss how we felt about the George Floyd, killing, and how we felt about the murder, right? And it was kind of like people made it seem like, oh, this is so bad that you're organizing to speak about this. And so I feel like we need to start normalizing like protesting, or even like making our voice be heard in the community, because people had a lot to say about it. Like, okay, they're organizing, it's not peaceful, they're trying to cause problems or whatever. But, it started off that we just wanted our voices to be heard. And we wanted the family to know that we understand that what happened was just not okay, and it was actually a murder. We wanted the police officers to be held accountable for what they did, right? So I feel like for this year, we need to really normalize protesting, and it needs to be peaceful, of course, but we need to normalize that there's still an issue, right? There's still an issue. There's still systematic racism, especially in our police department. So we have to get to a point where we can improve what's going on, right? So I believe that's one of the issues that we have to fix.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think starting 2021 with a focus on continuing the Black Lives Matter legacy, and where, things started in, even before 2020, but really went off in 2020. Marla, if you want to hop in.
I think one of the organizing issues that we're faced with, especially with COVID, is to organize virtually. How can we do this in a manner where we know we're still connected to the communities that we're serving, all while being safe? As the vaccine continues to roll out and more people are getting it, we'll be able to eventually organize in Gabby's description of like protesting peacefully. We will be able to get into those modes of being in big groups again. But until then, how do we do it safe and virtually? How do we continue to stay engaged with our community and continue to educate and motivate people to speak out against injustice and speak up for people who cannot speak for themselves? So I think that's one of the main challenges that I can think of that we need to focus on for this year.
Absolutely. I believe that usually before COVID, you would think that it wouldn't be hard because a lot of people are on social media, right? So usually you would think like it would be easier, right, for people to get on these platforms and speak up, and like virtual world for us would just be easier and smooth sailing. But unfortunately, we're starting to realize that it's not that easy right now. And so like most definitely that is a challenge. We have to get people out of their comfort zone to the point where, they can get on, get on Zoom or get on a meeting or get on Facebook or wherever and, speak up for their communities. So it is definitely a challenge that we are not ready for, but we have to get ready for, because we can't afford to slack, or we can't afford to really not focus on what's important, and that's the community. So that's something that we most definitely, you're right, Marla, like we have to get together.
Mhm.
Exactly. And I think you're exactly right, Gabby, in saying that you think it'd be much easier, but in fact, it's more difficult. And even though there are
Right.
opportunities, there's something where we're even in our organization finding that there is a very clear equity issue in access to internet and access to technology to be able to organize. Like for example, in our action with the San Bernardino County Supervisors, you have to go in person. You cannot call in, and so these are things where there is a lack of transparency and communication.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah, you're right about the digital divide. And we saw that with the children at K through 12, and even some people in college. Like when COVID hit, they're not able to get on and communicate with their classmates or their teacher or to submit their homework on time. So there's a lot of work to be done, and it's like, how can we do it creatively, in a way that will get the resources to the community that needs it the most, the underrepresented and the underserved. So I think it's very important that we really start to organize around that. Those of us who are privileged to be able to be on Zoom or, have access to computers and the internet, we need to think about ways that we can really roll out something for those who are less fortunate.
Completely, I completely agree. And it's something that we're seeing more and more. Like for example, one of our campaigns earlier during the pandemic was a desks donation campaign, because we were identifying that students didn't even have desks to work from home from.
Right.
And so in a lot of these communities, which are our frontline environmental justice communities as well, there is this issue of a lack of access to the digital sphere where a lot of the organizing is taking place, and they're being left out, and there is a lack of access to their voices being heard.
And in results, like there are students that are failing their classes. It's already hard. Not every student learns, at home, or there's some students that have to be in a classroom, right? So in addition to not being in the classroom, you don't have a computer, you don't have a desk, you don't have a tutor, and tutoring is very important, right? And so it's really, really hard for those students. So there's something that has to be done about that, because a lot of students are failing. The teachers have actually lowered their requirements for them to be able to pass these classes. And so it's kind of like, are the students actually learning anything either? And then, in addition to that, you can't work, you can't pay your bills, people can't pay their bills. And right now, there's a lot of landlords that are trying to kick people out of their homes. So it's just like a domino effect, and it needs to be corrected, or something needs to be done, right?